Hey guys, I'm Paradise1. In this video, I'm going to go over the different talent builds you're going to want to use for Survival Hunter Arena as of patch 10.2, cover when to switch talents situationally, as well as go over the different PvP talents and when to use them. Let's get started. Currently, there are two general talent builds that you're going to be using for Survival Hunter Arena. And while I'm going to go over both, I'm first going to go over the general Hunter talent tree, as these talents are very similar for both trees. I will have a link to both builds in the description, and you can then import them to your character. I am not going to explain what every little passive talent does, but I am going to highlight a few important talents and when you want to switch them. So for this talent option, you have Intimidation, or your pet stun, and High Explosive Trap as a knockback. Here, I would always recommend taking Intimidation stun for an arena setting. To the right of that, your options are Scatter Shot and Binding Shot, and these will change depending on what you're playing. For example, if I was playing with, say, a Death Knight, we don't have many consistent stuns between myself and the Death Knight in our toolkit. And in addition to that, the DK's passive AoE cleave will more than likely break a Scatter Shot, and for this reason I would choose to run Binding Shot. However, say I'm playing something like Jungle Cleave or Feral Hunter, we do have many consistent stuns between Bash, Maim, and my pet stun, and being able to cover a third target with a scatter, or even scatter a healer into a trap, is valuable, and for this reason I would choose to play Scatter Shot. And so, depending on what you're fighting and playing, try to take these different things into consideration when you're deciding whether you're going to want to take Binding or Scatter Shot. Underneath Scatter Shot, there is Roar of Sacrifice, as well as a passive avoidance talent. Always take Roar of Sacrifice. This is generally the better option in every scenario for Arena. Now on to the lower part of the tree, there's a few variations we can make. Latent Poison adds passive single target damage to your rotation, while Hydra Bite adds additional AoE damage, and your choice here depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to burst down one target at a time, you're going to want to take Latent Poison, but if you're playing something where you're trying to cleave down two or more targets at the same time, Hydra Bite is going to be more valuable. Always take Explosive Shot if you're going to use this talent slot, as Barrage is not very good in Arena. The other variation with Explosive Shot is Steel Trap, and unfortunately with how these builds are made, you can't get both Explosive Shot and Steel Trap, so you have to choose between the extra damage or the additional utility with the physical root. And choosing between these is situational. If you're going to get significant value out of the Steel Trap, for example if the enemy team has limited root breaking abilities, Steel Trap does make an impact. While Saber's a caster cleave where rooting does not really do that much, the additional damage from Explosive Shot is going to be better. So that's the general points. Now I'm going to go over the specific survival talents for each build. There are two builds that I'm going to go over today, and they have a few variations. This first build makes use of empowering your Fury of the Eagle ability. Now we haven't used it much this expansion in PvP, but with the tier set giving it more value, it is very good to use. This build would be used assuming you will be able to fully channel your Fury of the Eagle. Depending on what you're fighting, you can get a good idea of that. If there is a lot of little things to CC you, or if the target is slippery and mobile, take these things into account when choosing this spec. The second talent build makes use of the Spearhead talent. We're going to take the points that empower Fury of the Eagle away and put them to the right side over here. This build is used when you cannot get a full channel of Fury of the Eagle off, or if you need the additional mobility given by Spearhead. It's important to note that while Spearhead is technically a damage cooldown, when using it in Arena, it's better to use as an additional gap closer to connect to a target. So yes, it is a damage cooldown, but it is also a 50-yard charge for you and your pet, and that is generally the value in taking Spearhead. For both of these builds, there is one important variation that can be made, and this applies for both builds, and that talent is at the bottom here, Birds of Prey. This talent allows your kill shot to cleave 3 targets while your coordinated assault is active. So this is very strong when you're cleaving and able to hit multiple targets, say versus a melee cleave. However, if this is not the case and you will not get value out of the additional kill shots, say versus a caster cleave that is spread 40 yards apart, you want to move this talent into Ferocity at the top here for additional pet damage. In this last section, I'm going to go over the honor talents for Arena. So first and foremost, Survival Tactics is a take 100% of the time talent. It adds huge defensive value to your Feign Death, giving you a 90% damage reduction for 3 seconds when you use Feign Death. As for the other talent options, Mending Bandage can be taken into Feral Druids and Assassination Rogues to remove their bleeds. Sticky Tar Bomb gets value into double melee cleaves that will be affected by a disarm. Can also be used into Rogue Mage to stop the rogue on their setup. Anything where you'll get the value out of the disarm, there is value in taking this talent. Diamond Ice can be taken as an option where there are multiple ways to remove your trap, such as a Demon Hunter's Reverse Magic, Dream Projection, Mass Dispel, and Dispel. There's a whole bunch. If you're not able to make the trap stick, or if you're, say, uncomfortable covering these targets to prevent these abilities from removing your trap, Diamond Ice is a very good option. Tranquilizing Darts is very strong into Resto Druids, as well as Mistweaver Monks, Evokers, even Mages and Ret Paladins. Versus the healers, Trank Shot on cooldown to remove as much of their healing as possible. Into Mages and Ret Paladins, you can use this to quickly get off, say, an Alter Time, or a Blessing of Freedom, or Blessing of Protection. Chimera Sting is effectively used just for the silence portion, so if you feel you'll get high value out of having a silence, this is a very good choice. All of the other talents are not as impactful in Arena at the current moment, so I'm not going to get into them as I would not recommend taking them. And that concludes my explanation on survival talents. I hope you enjoyed and got something out of this video. If you have any feedback or ideas for future videos, please let me know in the comments. I also stream regularly, so if you wanted to stop by and say hi, I have a link to it in the description. Until next time, thanks for watching, and have a great day.